dude, I can't. There's just no words. Wow. Oh my fucking god, wow. You know, Vince Gilligan, you are a twisted man. You are one hell of a sick, twisted fucking man. A genius, but a twisted one. Oh my god, just so much in this episode happened. I can't even keep up with it. Just Hank, poor Hank. Why did it have to be Hank? Ugh, not Hank. Anyone but Hank. Oh man. You know, I had seen it coming for a few episodes now that Hank might die, but I thought in the back of my head, no, they'll never kill Hank, he's too good. But then the whole thing with the shootout last week, and then here, and you see he's alive in the beginning of the episode. I hoped beyond hope that he would survive when Walt was trying to kind of make a deal, barter for his life. I was like, no, I have money. But it was so heartbreaking, you know, when Hank is just laying there. He's like, if, you know, you're too stupid to realize that he made his decision 10 minutes ago. You're just like, what? No, no. And then the guy just shoots him while he's in the middle of talking. Oh my god, it's so horrible. I literally just sat there like in shock for like a good 5 minutes, like until like the next commercial break had finished. I just like, oh my god, I just didn't know what to feel. It was just, he's dead. Just Hank's dead. Wow. And the way they just sort of disrespectfully toss his body in the ditch next to poor dead Gomez. God, it's just so terrible. But, you know, it's on par for the course with these drug dealers. But God, so many twisted things in this episode. You know, you have Hank's death, and then you know you have that moment where Jesse, you think Jesse's gonna die too, and Walt's just like, yeah, kill him. And I was like, oh my god. Like after Hank died, I was like, this episode they're probably just gonna kill everybody. Like I felt like anyone could die. It was like watching Game of Thrones, where I suddenly felt like anyone could die at any given second. I thought Jesse was gonna die, and later on in the episode, I thought Skyler was gonna die, or Walt Jr. or someone with that knife struggle. I was like, oh my god, they're all gonna die. So it's really crazy the way this episode is kind of making me feel. And the thing is, I don't know who to root for anymore. You know, I feel like I want Walt to get revenge on all the assholes who just killed Hank and took most of his money. Like, I would love for Walter to slaughter the whole bunch of them, but at the same time, I also want Jesse to kill Walt. So I'm kind of rooting for both of them, even though they're against each other at this point, which is a little weird. But this show is so good at making you support different people at different times. Like, I feel like, you know, some people were Team Hank or Team Walt or Team Jesse. I feel like I'm on everybody's team for different things right now. Like, I want Walt to kill those guys. I want Jesse to kind of win and kill Walt. Or at this point, I would love Marie. If Marie killed Walt, that would be awesome. Which I think the show is kind of building towards. Like, you had that whole thing where, a few episodes ago, where Marie was talking about how she wanted to kill Walt. She was talking about the different ways she could do it, like poison him, different options. And I feel like, in a way, they're setting up that scene to be kind of important for later on. Like, why have that scene in there if it wasn't going to reflect on what's happening later? Especially now that Hank is dead, and Marie thinks that Walt killed him outright. I mean, it's basically Walt's fault anyway, but she thinks that Walt killed Hank. With all this information, she's going to try to kill him. I know she is. Like, you know, she's going to be doing something in these next couple episodes, and I'm pretty sure it's not going to be just her sitting around moping. So it's probably going to be her trying to find a way to kill Walt. And if the show ends with that, if she kills him in the future, that'd be great. So we'll see if they go in that direction. But yeah, so many crazy things in this episode. You have the Hank death at the beginning, which is shocking enough, and then so many more shocking things, like, oh my god, Walt's revelation about Jane's death. The way he just walks in front of Jesse, just says it out of the blue, I let Jane die. Oh, it's just so evil and menacing, and it's great. Like, I had been predicting for weeks that the Jane death was going to come out. Like, Jesse would have to kind of find out about it before the end. And I also thought that the only way it would make sense at this point is if Walt tells it to him outright. I thought that would kind of be the only way for that revelation to make sense. But the way it was done in this episode, with him doing it to bait Jesse, to say, like, fuck you, like, I lost Hank because of you, and now I'm gonna tell you how you lost Jane because of me. And oh, it's just so vile. And I think if anything, Jesse is gonna want to kill Walt even more now. So it's kind of a 2 for 2. Marie and Jesse are tied for who wants to kill Walt the most and who deserves to kill Walt the most. At this point, I think it'd be cool if Marie did it, but either one would be cool. So yeah, and then they did some other crazy stuff with Jesse. He's now held prisoner, being forced to make meth. Like, Todd's forcing him to cook meth, which is a pretty cool twist. I guess it makes sense because, you know, Lydia had lost faith in Todd in the previous episode, and Todd wanted to kind of continue to prove himself to Lydia and, you know, save his job along with probably his life. So recruiting Jesse for that makes sense. So now Jesse's kind of like a prisoner, and that should be interesting to explore in the last 2 episodes. But yeah, oh god, just so much happened. There was the Jesse thing, the Hank thing, and then just the revelation to Flynn about Walt. It was like, oh my god, it's like, this was one of those moments where I had been thinking of how it was going to happen for the longest time. I had always been wondering, like, when is Walt Jr. going to find out? And now it happens. Now shit hits the fan. And I always knew I would hate this because Walt Jr. loves his father so much and has so much faith in him, and I knew that seeing that faith dashed would be absolutely heartbreaking. And it happens in this episode, and it is heartbreaking, just as I feared it would be. And, you know, you just have that encounter in the house where, you know, Walt comes back, and they're going through, Walt's trying to get them to leave, and they were like, did you kill Hank? Where is Hank? Where is Hank? Oh my god, it's just so intense, and, I didn't know, it was, I just didn't know what to think. The acting was so good in that scene. Bryan Cranston, you know, he's always great, but he had some real powerful emotions, real raw stuff on display here, when he was breaking down in front of them. And Anna Gunn, great performance, and, Flynn, too, I'm forgetting the actor's name, but he was also fantastic here. And just as they struggled, as it sort of broke down, and Skylar came at him with the knife, and they had this struggle, you got the real sense of how terrible this was, how this family is falling apart, and you're seeing it through Walter's eyes and experiencing it yourself, as he says, what's wrong with you? We're a family. He can't believe it, and to him, everything he's doing is for his family. You know, how can this be happening? How can they not be grateful? But you start to realize, as he does in this moment, he's lost his family. He's seeing them there, and they're slipping away from him. You know, he can't quite bring himself to accept it, but they're gone. They're lost to him, and it's just really heartbreaking. And even so much, I have so much animosity towards the character of Walter White now, but even in spite of all of that, it's still heartbreaking to see this moment where everything he's done throughout the show has all come to naught. It's all been ruined. It's all essentially for nothing. And it's quite awful. This Vince Gilligan has made this into something quite apocalyptic. So yeah, God, it's just unbelievable. And the whole conversation on the phone at the end was kind of interesting too, right? Like, Walt kidnaps Holly, and you're thinking it's kind of like it's like a move to it's like a kind of manipulative grab to have leverage over Skylar, but also more, I think, that he's in this desperate mode where he's lost his family, and the last family member there who can't stop him, who can't resist, is his newborn daughter. So he takes her and, you know, brings her with him. It's his last desperate attempt to hold on to one of his family members, anyone he can grab. But that phone conversation was pretty interesting. Like, hearing him go into, like, full out villain mode and be like, Skylar, you know, you ungrateful stupid bitch. Like it was kind of funny, but I think the scene kind of had a layer to it. Like, you know, it wasn't just about him threatening her. That would have been a little bit pointless. I think the real purpose was to let them know that Skylar was not involved. Like, I think Walt's, you know, pretty much a genius. I think he knew there were cops there, and he's probably what he's doing is the way he was speaking. He was making it very clear that he was responsible for everything, and Skylar had nothing to do with it. And I think Skylar was aware of this, of what he was doing, and that's why she went along with what he said and said, "I'm sorry, okay," and didn't try to argue because she realized that he was essentially saving her ass. So that's my guess. But I do think there's also a bit of animosity from Walt. I think he is truly angry at her. He meant what he said because he's lost everything. But I think the giveaway is that Walt did start to kind of, as he said, "I'll take care of you like I took care of Hank." He's crying as he says it, and you see he doesn't mean it. He didn't want Hank to die, and he doesn't want her to die either. He is very much not ever willing to kill a family member. Despite what he says to her at the end, he's still not willing to kill family. So that's kind of like the one last remaining element of Walter White that I can still kind of respect and appreciate. And yeah, so Walter's off now. He's off on future to the 6-month flash forward. I think the next episode will probably pick up in the current timeline, but we do see how the pieces have fallen into place, and now he is going to where you see him at the start of season 5. So everything's kind of coming full circle. Yeah, looking forward to seeing where it goes from here. I can't believe what happened to Hank. I'm still so devastated about that. It's just, this awful shock, and just, no, why Hank? He was so good. He was such a good character. I really hope they find his body out there in the desert and, dig him up and give him a proper burial. I kind of wish that when Walt was on the phone with Skylar, he had just kind of given her the coordinates for where Hank and Gomi are buried so they can be treated with the proper respect, but he probably didn't know the exact coordinates anyway. Even though they were close to where the money was buried, which coordinates he didn't know. But anyway, I'm getting off hand. But yeah, really sad stuff this episode. So much happened, I almost feel like a lesser writer would have taken 5 episodes to tell this stuff. Right? You have the revelation of Jane, you have the death of Hank, you have this whole thing with Jesse being tortured, you have Flynn finding out to the fight with the knife and the kidnapping of Holly, and Walt leaving, all of this stuff is packed, so intense watching this episode, and it could have very easily been spaced out into multiple episodes, but I'm glad that Vince Gilligan was smart enough to not do this. He understands that we're at the end times now, we're in the end zone, it's time for breakneck speed, and he gets that, and that's what he's giving us. It's just relentless, and it's great, but at the same time, it's too much for me to handle, it's just so overwhelming. I haven't felt this, emotionally wrecked from television programming since the Red Wedding from Game of Thrones, and this honestly was even more of an intense experience for me than that was. But yeah, God, it's 2 episodes left. I'm gonna be very sad when the show ends. But yeah, those are my thoughts on the episode. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you at next week's. Take care.